Hello, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. This is Geotech Politics, and we are here again after a break of a couple of months. Casey has been busy, and so I was busy with other stuff. So welcome back, Khurram. Thanks for showing up. I know you are not feeling well, but would love to have you on the show. Um, let's dive right into the current issues which are happening around us globally. We have been talking about changing world. We have been talking about this hyper dynamic world at this moment. I mean, you wake up and you hear another story, entirely a different view of the world. The world view and the world, this whole system is changing and at a very rapid pace. Um, First of all, we observed a very, horrendous, or you should call it like very bold and very shocking event when Israel again attacked another country, where unprovokingly, right? So we saw that Israel attacked Qatar with their jets, and everybody was shocked at why this is going to happen, given that Hamas was in negotiation. Just like we have seen this dynamic, this same pattern when Iran was was right in the middle of negotiation with the US.
Mhm.
So was Hamas, and Israel attacked the leadership to dislodge these negotiations, or maybe they were not even serious for this negotiation, anyways. So they just wanted to get rid of Hamas leadership. So let's start from there, and then we can build on where we stand today. So, any thoughts why Israel would do that, and did it achieve its goal?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Rauf, to actually kind of, start it again. I think like we are missing a lot, and a lot of things have happened like over the time, whatever was the missing during this period. Um, I think one thing is quite apparent that Israel has got to a point where they have to keep on doing something. They have to really provoke and then get this conflict going. And this is apparent day in day out. I
Mhm.
mean, if you look at the after the ceasefire, how it's kind of like abrogated, and then we saw the exchanges in terms of the hostages and everything, and then again something happens. So it's in the benefit of Israel, and especially Netanyahu, because he has his own problems, but at the same time, I think Israel is thinking that it's now or never. If you're going to be actually taking a back step, then you're never ever going to get this into this kind of situation where they have to benefit in terms of actually taking over more land. Um, so we're going to talk about this, and I think that's driving pretty much everything,
Mhm.
all their actions. And then without calculation, they actually went into Qatar, which obviously fired back big time, and that is bringing the fruits for the Muslim world now.
Yeah, it's very funny at the same time, and it is shocking. Funny in a sense that now even a fifth grader can see this hypocrisy from part of US, where US is has been vetoing. It has vetoed like 6 times continuously the ceasefire in Gaza, and that's the only state that has done that. So even a very even a common Joe on the street walking the street can infer this, that US is standing hand in hand with Israel at this moment. And maybe we can speculate that might be there is a chance that US is actually encouraging Israel to take these actions what Israel is doing at this time. So this is very uh, is it is going to have a very negative effect on the US policy. Yes, and we are seeing that negative effect. Canada has accepted Palestine today, this very day. We have heard that UK has done that, and France has done that. So many other countries are lined up to accept the state of Palestine. in defiance to this bad cop good cop gimmick that Israel and US is playing with the world. So given this situation, do you think that US is naive enough to follow this policy where they are backing Israel and everybody is hating Israel at this moment? Everybody's against Israel, Europe, and even of course, the Middle Eastern countries. They are absolutely against Israel's this adventure in the Middle East. Like it has hit 6 countries, 6 or 7 countries in the Middle East, which is very shocking that a country who is saying that they are defending themselves would go in the offense and attack 7 countries. So,
Look,
what is your
it's
thought?
not. Yeah, I don't think like it's in U.S. hands anymore. People think like U.S. is actually driving all this, but on the real driving seat is the Netanyahu, and I wouldn't even say Israel, but the Netanyahu um, doing all this. So U.S. has to actually follow the suit. I mean, if you look at the typical example, like I mean, my 2+2 on the actual Qatar attack is that the planes fly from Tel Aviv. They are over the airspace of Syria. At that time, Turkish intelligence actually get the wind of it, so they inform Qatar that this is what's happening. By the time planes actually hit the airspace of Iraq, Pentagon comes to realization, not the realization, but the actual Israelis inform Pentagon, not the White House, that we are in the middle of actually doing this. Now Pentagon goes ahead and informs the White House, but by the time White House is being informed, White House has been left with like 10 minutes or 10 or 15 minutes of the time. Then Trump actually informs the Qatari leadership that this is what's happening, and by the time the planes already hit the residential place in Qatar. So, I mean, in this kind of a scenario where you have a clear pattern that it wasn't even the U.S. administration was informed; it was the Pentagon was informed, and in fact, probably the Pentagon wasn't needed to be informed because unless there was a CENTCOM there, because the CENTCOM is there, Crow can't even fly over the actual Qatari space because of the, all the Patriot missiles, all the actual toys they have. I mean, this is the base where you actually control the whole region from. So Pentagon was needed to be informed that you're just going to take it and not fire any missile against your own planes coming in from Israel. It's a joke. Like American planes have gone through the American air defense system and then attacked the American ally, and then successfully came back. So it's just all of it is American. So just to say that America, I do not buy that America is actually pulling the strings here. Israel is in full control, and America is in a dilemma that they don't have a choice. Especially the administration doesn't have a choice what to do in this kind of scenario when they have actually got the money and they have the leverage over themselves. Especially many things have come out in the Epstein files, that how they have actually built the leverages over different politicians. And APAC has given so much money to all the senators and the congressmen. While this was happening, Rubio was there by the Wailing Wall. So it's a very commonsensical to figure it out what's happening here.
Yeah. So, but uh, I think it's debatable. It's something that we can debate that either US is pulling the strings or Netanyahu is pulling the strings. As you mentioned, the influence, the heavy influence, Israeli influence on US establishment is very obvious. We know that. But at the same time, President Trump is under a lot of pressure from the the U.S. Citizens, and we know that next year there would be elections for Senate, and it will deeply affect. People are enraged by what is happening, a kind of genocide in front of our eyes that is happening, and the world can't do anything about it. Secondly, No matter how much leverage Israel would have on US, we can easily speculate that US is an independent country, right? And people are already debating that why US has to must follow and support Israel on all fronts. Um, it is debatable again. There's no clear picture. These are some murky waters, but as an analyst, I would tell to this side, to the other side of things, what you just stated. I personally believe that U.S. Government is deeply involved in this, all of this, what Israel is doing. There are factors. We saw that when Israel attacked Iran, uh, the president came on line and he just remarked that, oh, I don't know. Did they attack? Oh, I mean, really? And but we see that there was deep coordination. That later, it was revealed by Marco Rubio and somebody other people in the government that there was a deep involvement of U.S. in the whole operation when they attacked Iran. So I personally believe that U.S. has some 5 year, 10 year plan for the Middle East and the world, and I think they are trying to follow that plan. And Netanyahu is one pawn which is basically going to be sacrificed soon, in a sense that he's playing so aggressively that we can believe that sooner or later something is going to happen which is going to change the equation where Netanyahu might not be part of that equation. So we can look at this the world in that from that side of things, which I'm just trying to explain. So this is debatable at the moment that who is pulling the strings. We know that Netanyahu is kind of a bulldog which is out of control. It's a pit bull, like which you have unleashed, and now it's hard to control. We can debate that, but at the end of the day, I think what is most important for everybody is this question, which is right on our screen. That by doing, you are mute, Casey. I can't hear you.
So if we buy that argument, then it has to result into some sort of like a, or even if not now, like somewhere in the near future, like it has to result into benefiting US. We do not see that is benefiting. Um,
Hmm.
you know, I mean, in near future, how can you actually define that is benefiting US? I mean, US is actually getting singled out in the whole world stage at this point. I mean, what tomorrow is going to happen? Tomorrow is going to be actually, the whole of the rest of the world is going to be on one side, and the one side is going to be Israel and US, and maybe a couple of islands in the Pacific.
That's
So,
exactly
so
what happened.
how US is getting benefited out of it? Like, so you have to, really give me a case on it.
Absolutely. So I think this maybe we can speculate again. It's a speculation. It's a kind of analysis which we can do. It's a kind of a wargaming we can get into. In my view, U.S. interest in the Middle East. Of course, we know that oil reserves in the Middle East, and also we know that Middle East. A lot of the trade which is happening through these waterways is very crucial for U.S. economy. So one way or the other, you might think about U.S. plan of having control over this region, and that would lead us to other questions which we will take on in the region which U.S. trying to interfere and trying to get control of.
No,
We
but the
can
US already had the control over. It's not going into the region to actually get the control over. Yeah, which country didn't have the control over? I mean, it was perfectly fine. I mean, everything was working out.
Iran,
They had
of course,
influence
Iran.
over
They don't have
pretty much
control over Iran.
everything.
They don't have control over Yemen. They don't have a semi control on this Syria. So I mean, these three countries they don't have any control
No,
over.
Syria actually came under their influence with this kind of like a setup. It wasn't there for like past 50 years, but now it is. Iraq is under their control. Syria is
Mhm,
under their control. Lebanon is now like free of Iran. I
mhm.
mean, if wherever you see this under their hegemon, I do
Okay,
not see Iran is neutralized.
so
So,
let's
I mean, why would you give it all that away?
got it completely. Makes sense. So either this is what this could be, that this control of the region one way or the other, and the second part of could be that US, I mean, Israel has some, we can say that religious background to have this expansion of and rise of this Jewish nation to take control of the region. So it could be either a religious, dream, or a kind of a venture they want to achieve, or either they have full control of the US, and they, as you mentioned, that the APAC and all those things, that they control US fully, that US is not even seeing the benefit out of it and going into this and controlling this, war in the region deliberately and deeply involved. So there could be multiple reasons. It's very hard to,
I mean, I don't think like we have to look too much deep into it. Like, I mean, you're just going to be actually taking the skin off their hair kind of a scenario. Like, I mean, it's very apparent that, US, I gave you the scenario. Like, if the Trump wasn't informed in first place and the Pentagon was informed, and it's in Trump's words, it's not like I'm telling you. Trump said, Pentagon informed me that Israel is going to attack a friendly country, not a friendly country, ally. I mean, that's where the CENTCOM is. So
Mhm.
it's very simple that, even the White House has been compromised to an extent. They're saying, oh, why weren't they actually informed? They should have actually stood with the ally, and not just the ally where their military installation is, which is controlling the whole region. And what it comes out of it, like, I mean, we can discuss further about, is the Pakistani Saudi pact,
Mhm.
because that has a so that I mean, kind of like far-reaching impact on the whole region than any other thing. When the American calculating that the Saudis is going to be actually pushed into so much into to the corner after this, that they won't have any choice but to actually kind of resort to some backup plan. And so this is very clear that the Americans aren't able to actually take a step back and look at the whole situation, that they it's not in their favor. And also internally, if you look at the U.S. Kind of internal social fabric is changing. The whole MAGA has changed. After Charlie Kirk, and I mean, whatever the scenario is, I mean, people are openly. I mean, the left is, or the Democrats are on one side, but even the core of Republicans are actually questioning whether it is in their favor to kind of go to that much extent. I mean, for UK to actually recognize Palestine is just, this morning Keir Starmer actually, the way he portrayed it, I thought like they would probably delay as much as they could, but because of the alignment with the US, and they probably would just let the rest of the Europeans hang in tight and go ahead with it. But then he did say that it took us 70 years to actually accept the Palestinian state. We did accept like 70 years ago.
Mhm.
Israeli state. Why didn't we do that up till now? So I mean, things have drastically changed all over the world. And all of a sudden, a couple of days ago, Trump to come out and say, all of a sudden from nowhere, why now? Why Afghanistan? Why Bagram? I mean, what's happening here? So there is a bigger game being played, and the US is feeling that Pakistan, Saudi uh, pact is gonna have like good weightage in the
So
whole wargaming scenario.
yes, we will come to the pact. I think that's a separate conversation we need to deeply talk about. But I would just focus on this, this risk and this craziness from the US side of things, where they are putting their hegemony, where they control, where their influence in the world is being challenged. Every day we see Pakistan Saudi pact is one example, but we see on the other side that, the close coordination between China and Russia. We see that, that is always growing, and no matter what US is trying to do, they are not able to, decrease this close integration between these two giants. Similarly, we can see that in India, US is trying to influence India not to buy the gas and oil from, from Russia. And it's very ironic that while they are trying to buy the same oil themselves, they don't want India to buy it. So, but India has so far, I mean, we have heard multiple views around that part, but we have so far India is holding its ground. So it's challenging and defying the U.S. Wishes. And add to that part, I think today Afghanistan government has categorically said that even they will not give in 1 inch of that base. So there's no question about it. So US is losing its influence, is being its hegemony is being challenged just because it cannot say no to Israel. Like this is puzzling to me to an extent where a superpower is so much controlled and helpless, where it is losing everything just to support one foreign country. Do you think this support will continue throughout the this administration, or do you think it's going to have any change of
For
plan?
for that for that to be answered, you have to actually go through very in detail through the Epstein files,
Mhm.
and that's going to be entirely different kind of a session. I think we can dig deep into it, but I think like there
How
are some of the
how would you relate the two? First, let's for the audience just try to connect the dots.
it's a leverage built over past 50 years over certain people, certain individuals who have actually excelled into the corridors of power. And then, if you have their, some shadow character is being actually recorded and some videos is being made, and they have got the built the leverage over them because of the shortcomings of their character or financial misgivings and all those kind of things, then effectively you'll do whatever somebody is telling you to do. And then if it comes to shove, if you're trying to actually follow your own path and try to kind of like be all open about it, that okay, what is good and what is, and we have like open freedom speech kind of a scenario, which like for instance some of the Republicans are now feeling that they have actually shifted over, especially the MAGA crowd. So, for instance, out of all the people, Tucker Carlson would have been the one who is actually advocating for Palestinians and highlighting those people that what kind of war crimes has been committed over there. I mean, listen to Tucker Carlson a couple of years ago, and then you wouldn't believe that this is what's happening. Even Charlie Kirk. I mean, in the last days, he was really, I mean, people are still debating about it, but he was really adamant about it. And you can, listen to his videos and talks and everything, that he was really fearful about his life, that if he's going to talk anything against Israel, he's going to be taken out, and he was taken out. Now, I wouldn't go as far as that Israel has taken him out, but it was clear that he was shifting his narrative. So the whole revolution to actually bring about this change, this woke mentality, that mega movement. I mean, Charlie was the ones who's actually, organized it on the grassroots level. So for him to disappear from the picture is a major blow to the whole thing. And if he would have shifted and became or started talking what Tucker Carlson is talking at this point in time, the whole in within 6 months or so, whole Republican bases would have been shifted, because people, youth especially, like listen to him.
Understood. So you're talking about, I think you are now getting into the intricate details of how this administration is playing out and how the world in the US is being controlled by, allegedly again, we don't have solid grounds or like obviously I mean there's no reports of known connections, but world is speculating, analyzing the situation where Charlie Kirk, as you mentioned, Tucker Carlson, I think, would be the next target then, because if he's so adamant about Palestine, I think he might be the target if we follow that same psychology. You're on mute. You're mute, Casey.
Look, Tucker Carlson and likes of him are just like a, TV evangelist or YouTubers, or like where they interview people and different that. That's like a, kind of middle-aged generation you were talking about, that people would actually listen to him or on and off. Whereas Charlie was like on the on the foundational level, on the grassroots level. This is like changing people's minds, especially the young generation. So he was more of an important person because he was just going around the country and actually talking to the people one to one, in all the universities, and having all that many chapters, and solving people's problem, connecting them with the religion, talking about like the country, its ethics, the foundational level. So if he would say to these people, that's like a lot more dangerous, because it's going to be, for time to come, is going to solidify the foundation. What Tucker Carlson is going to say is going to actually change your opinion to an extent. Look what is happening. It's going to take a lot of effort for a middle ager to change their minds, than as compared to the grassroots level guy, a youth population.
No,
So that's
totally
the
understand. So, but at the same time, if we continue on this line of thinking, this gives us a very crazy picture of the world, where one tiny nation, like thousands of miles away, is controlling like the 350 million population of 350 million, the most powerful country in the world, most powerful
look.
army in the world. Like, how is it possible? Like, I mean, there could
Look,
be.
people think, okay, you have to understand, it's not just about America. Okay, so if imagine if the entity, or like whatever you want to call it, ABC, if it's controlling the financial system. There are like three systems in the world. One is the political system, second one is the financial system, and third one is the social system. If you control three systems, forget about the countries. So the way after Second World War, the whole structure is being, the Yalta is being kind of come about, is based on these three systems. So the political system needs that kind of financial. Somebody has to actually kind of like bankroll the thing. So how the bankrolling was happening? Who was doing the bankrolling? I mean, it was them. I mean, the whole financial system is being taken care of. And in order to screw up your social fabric, you have to screw up your mind, the people's minds. And that is like a media. And it's just the Hollywood, how you're going to portray, what's going to be the scripts, who's going to be writing it, who's going to be the actors, what kind of movies we're going to be making, what kind of articles we're going to be writing, what media outlets is going to be, who's going to own them. I mean, it's not just all of a sudden we woke up one day and realized that, okay, they have everything in their control. No, it's been worked upon for century, in order to get here where we are. So just to say that okay, because they control America, that's why it's happening, is not true. I mean, many of the systems is being controlled as far east, from
Mhm.
west to east.
That totally makes sense to me. Now, if we look at these this three system which you've just elaborated, then why we see that are we seeing that the governments of Canada, the governments of France, the government of UK, they are defying these the control of these systems, although they are play the part of the political system, play part of financial system. How come Carney in Canada was able to, recognize the state of Palestine? How come, UK and France are able to follow the pattern? Like, is this influence not working on them? Like, why there's a shift on those regions and not in US? That's why I was more focused on US, because I see that the other world is revolting and defying against this monopoly of the system.
Look, Europe is a lot more open, susceptible. I mean, for instance, if you look at the UK is not a religious country. I mean, the pubs are converting into other kind of like institutions. Sorry, pubs are converting into the mosques, churches are converting into other institutions, and all that. It's difficult for um, for them to actually control Europe because of the information flow, because of the channels, a lot more openness, a lot more close proximity in terms of the actual Middle East. So if you look at it like France and UK and Italy, Spain, I mean, these are the nations who have actually gone out and built up this imperial colonies all over the world. So they have like these connections with all these countries. America is different. America has been always a melting pot for the people who actually once came here, became here. Like, I mean, they never traveled outside. So they never interact, or they haven't been interacting. I mean, literally about 10 years ago, they didn't have the means to even get the news from outside world, because the channels here, the TV channels, wouldn't even cover some of the news from anywhere other than the US. And that was the reality. Now with the social media became part and parcel, like about 15 years ago, 2008 onwards or 2010 onwards, then they start to realize that what happens in the world. I mean, whatever the version you wanted to actually tell the Americans, they would know this is what it is. Like, okay, Sunday football, have like some news at 8 or 10, local news, not even a national news, localized games. So, I mean, simply they didn't have the version of what is happening in the world. For Europe, it wasn't the case. They every day they hear like what happened in
No, but
Africa, what is happening in Korea, and all that.
see, we talked about the three systems, right? So I'm saying the political system applies to US as much as it applies to Europe, and same goes maybe for some part of it to China. And Pakistan is part of that political system globally. Pakistan is part of the the financial system and social system. Maybe can be controlled. Like in China, there's very much controlled space where you can only see what the government allows you to see. So what I'm trying to get at is that US is in this very unique position, or is a very unique country, as you mentioned, that where the influence of Israel is manifesting itself entirely at a very different level than we see in the other parts of the world. So that is that why Israel cannot control other countries, but it can control the US very elaborately, very in a stronghold of the
It's
Israel.
not about not able to control. The modus operandi is different to control. That's what the thing is. Like, the tool to actually control America is entirely different, which is political, which is controlling the Congress and Senate and the White House, as compared to controlling the masses in the Europe, like with the Tony Robinson, for instance. I mean, they are not actually controlling the politicians, but they are controlling that the media, how the social media is going to be taking care of like certain things. So the modus operandi is different. It's not just about actually how the things are being operated. Let's take a question. So Harjeet actually said Charlie had created a formidable enemies in Israel and India by talking about. Look, Harjeet, he was talking about a lot of things. It's not that because of one or two things, all of a sudden he became a target where the life should be taken away. I mean, he spent a lot of time. I mean, this is it's a great asset. And usually you do not go about killing willy-nilly like that, especially with kind of a person who is actually built for so long, that you actually kind of looked at him, kind of prepped him, maybe at some point in time even bankrolled it, his operations indirectly, and then all of a sudden you came to the conclusion that, okay, take him out. It doesn't work like that. As for and we know that the Indians are running multiple death squads in American soil. What are the chances that they have something to do with that? I mean, there could be. I mean, people are working on a lot of theories on this. And Kash Patel, like you were saying, Indian squad. Kash sits in the midst of the helm of affairs, like is the head who's going to be actually doing all the investigation and everything. There are a lot of gaps initially being discussed about, like in terms of, for instance, there's no way this Robinson guy could actually carry this gun in the footage which is being shown to us, that this is the footage, and from this footage you can see clearly that it's actually going over the stairs and then onto the actual top. First of all, like, there are many questions. How come the actual roof top door was accessible? Everybody knows in the US that there's no roof access for any building available unless you have the keys. Anybody who lives in the US would know that. Or even in the Europe, there's no roof access available. Secondly, the video they have actually shown to the public, it shows that it should show that there is a gun. Now, the gun is like anywhere between 28 inches to 4 inches. Everybody talked about it, and it's simply not possible for him to walk with it without bending a knee. So obviously, when you talk, when you walk, you have to bend the knee in order to walk. Without bending a knee, you cannot. So to them, they were he was hiding a gun in his clothing, and still he was walking. It's simply not possible. So there are like tons of questions, which they and he hasn't talked yet. So I mean, there are like a lot of things we're going to be talking about. So there could be multiple shooters. The one actually, I mean, he's the scapegoat. Somebody else actually shot. In order to get somebody out, it's not difficult. You don't have to have like an Indian squad. It could be any squad. Um, and one thing you have to realize that this is his normal thing. For Charlie, I mean, the guy of this stature, um, we wouldn't be considering that he's going to be off the with the public profile of presidential style or congressman or senator. It's not like that. He's just going around. He's a figure. He has a couple of bodyguards, not even a bodyguard, like security guards, I would say. Those security guards like taking care of him. That's the maximum he can afford. And it's not that kind of a recce beforehand that the person who is actually going and visiting a place, like any other person would go, there would be a security mechanism in place that they go sweep the whole place, look at it, what are the versions. Maximum they will look at it that if somebody is coming to the close proximity, whether they are carrying a gun or not. I mean, having this scenario that somebody would be actually, taking out from 100, 200 meters, and, cordon off this area with a sniper shot that nobody would be able to, and, sweep the whole area is probably not the mechanism for which Charlie would actually move around. So all those kind of things needed to be on account.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a very complicated case. I think we will get more details as Charlie's, the Tony Robinson can speak more, and they can make him speak more. So let's quickly get back to the topic which we were discussing, and that is now based on the conversation we had so far, the influence, the more the the different methodologies where the Israel is trying to control the world, and we talked about briefly. Now, this has caused a chaos in the world. You know, everybody's running around. Especially this Qatar attack was, I would say, a turning point in history, i- i- in a sense that everybody who has American base in their country as a protection are thinking again. They're thinking hard, like what the hell? We had this whole base where we pay them the money, we give them the planes, we give them the so many other things. So what is the use of those all those sources which we share with the Americans if they can't protect the country? We have seen one very obvious example where we have seen the pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. But I am pretty sure that there are other unspoken pacts that have been made, which have not made public. And we will see as the world gets in more into this craziness which Israel is enforcing on the world, where Netanyahu has repeatedly said that it will not stop. It is going to go attack any other country it seems it deems things that is harboring the terrorist or Hamas leaders or Hamas operatives. So this has opened the landscape in very like complicated way. Now, at the same time, we are seeing that there are some democracies collapsing in the world. We've seen Bangladesh, we have seen this Nepal, we are seeing other countries. So this alliance at the same time and this collapsing of the governments, are they just coincident? Like this is the things happening at the same time, or there is something more that is connecting to these two phenomena? Like people are unhappy with the governments. Governments are being enforced on the over the people by superpower like US or some other countries, and people are unhappy with those governments, they want to revolt against those governments, and then that's the government or democracy is collapsing. So do you see any connection between these two?
I think it's similar sort of like a ripple effect, like as you see in Arab Spring, kind of a scenario. It's just like decade later in subcontinent. So it started with the Sri Lanka and then gone into. Actually, if you look at it, like it was supposed to happen in Myanmar, but the military moved in, and then it didn't carry on. And since then, military has been in power in Myanmar. Then you have Sri Lanka, then Bangladesh, and now Nepal. And then other countries are also talking about this. Like obviously in Pakistan, as you know, Imran Khan is behind bars. So a lot of people were talking about like now he's going to come to Pakistan. I doubt that, but let's see how it goes. Because the scenario in those countries where the military has got a lot more influence over the masses, or they are able to actually control well beforehand, then it becomes difficult. Although military had influence in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Nepal, but they were kind of not controlling on a day-to-day basis. So when the push come to shove, they looked at it, said it's not in their favor, they stepped back. But in Pakistan, the scenario is entirely different because they are in control. So why, effectively, when you're going to be actually kind of raising some voice, why would they step back? Because their own control is going to be threatened. As far as the actual pact is concerned, look, that happened, and there is a reason. Egypt actually come forward saying that okay, they want to play that role. After the summit, they actually projected that they were working on the scenario that there would be something at the end of the summit. They were contemplating, but Saudi actually didn't really accept that Egypt would be leading it. Pakistan would be fine. Pakistan has got like a very unique status in this whole scenario because no other Muslim country, although Turkey has a very good influence, good apparatus, good fighting force, yet they haven't fought a recent war directly. What Pakistan has is entirely different because they actually have been in fighting for a longer period of time. Recently, fought a big war with a country of seven times of this size. So they were able to actually prove to the world that they are a force to be reckoned with. And in that kind of a scenario, everybody was just talking about like, okay, let's come into Pakistan's nuclear umbrella. What does that mean? Nobody understands fully that. What does that mean? But I think because of the Saudis' close relationship for past 50 years or so with Pakistan, and close relationship is not like just on verbal level. There are physical interactions, working together, taking care of certain things on both sides. It provided them the opportunity that it just literally when Saudis were cornered, they thought like, okay, it would be best to actually align with them. So there are two things. One thing is that it wouldn't have been they wouldn't have been able to actually announce it publicly without some sort of a nod from Chinese, because as you know, Pakistanis has got like about 80% or so Chinese equipment now. It used to be the mix was different, but now they have like about 80% of. So obviously, when you work closely, you're going to come into contact with some of the apparatus, some of the communication, some of the equipment, some of the actual workings of those very toys. Then you have to get some sort of understanding with that. Similar sort of scenario on this side. Now, people are saying America didn't know, America knew, America this, America that. But you have to understand America, and I have a theory for it. Like nobody has talked about it, but I can actually mention it for the first time here. I have a theory, and that theory is based on some sort of like 2+2, like a rational theory. What we were discussing just a minute ago, that how come America is so has become such a hostage to the asks or the needs of Israel. And my theory is that America is simply not able, at this point in time at least, to say no or at least take a harsh action against certain thing which Israel asked to do or commits to do something like they did with the Qatar, America could have stopped it right in the middle. They could have literally stopped it. If they wouldn't have to actually go that far to actually take the Israeli planes down, but they could have actually taken them, whatever the missiles were fired at Doha, they could have taken those missiles, but they didn't. So that's the who was going to do it. So Trump would have to tell the Pentagon to take those missiles down, which are going towards the Doha, right? So if that's the case, why Trump didn't do that? And it wasn't like, it wasn't saying, Trump wouldn't be saying that, okay, go and attack Israel. It's just like whatever is coming from there, stop that. And they had the capability. CENTCOM could have done that, but they didn't. So the problem is that if the president also is, I don't know, there's no other explanation other than that he's so much subdued to Israel or their attention or their instructions, as Rubio was over there at that time, then what could the American, deep state would do in this kind of a scenario? How would they actually, restore American hegemon or American influence over certain things, which is not going according to their plan, and they want to restore American influence? So one way is to play externally. So the theory is that they probably would go about saying, okay, Saudi, you talk to Pakistan. Pakistan we've been working with them like since the Badabi days, like in 70s with the, all the negotiations with China. They were the one who facilitated it. We work with them very closely. 2 Afghan wars, this, that, whatever. So that would instantly, that pact, Saudi and Pakistan pact actually gave an instant signal to Israel. Because you have to understand, they have, Saudi and Pakistan both have land mass. So Israel biggest disadvantage, it doesn't have any land mass whatsoever. One nuclear strike would take out the whole country. So you have to understand the war gaming in this scenario. So the moment Israel realizes that the Saudi and its hegemon has got the nuclear cover, although it's not going to be ever used, but there is a possibility, then obviously they'll be very cautious even in the messaging from that point onwards. And then maybe the deep state thought, okay, this would be the best thing to actually control it. So this could be a way, and it's an evolving situation, so we'll see. But the 2 days later on, what happens? Trump all of a sudden from nowhere says, what about Bagram? Okay, so we're going to take Bagram out. I actually wrote an article, whole article on that. It's on my timeline. People can actually read on it.
We will go back to KZ, but I just want to conclude this conversation about Pakistan and KSA Pact. So I think what you just mentioned that the messaging is very important, because we understand, and I think you can very easily speculate around the other pacts between Turkey and Pakistan, which are not announced. Like, we saw that in the war, the Operation Sindoor, and what India was trying to do with Pakistan. We saw that Turkey supported Pakistan without any, very explicit pact that way they will support Pakistan in case of any war. So looking at this scenario, it is just the messaging is important, or do you think it's actually the pact already existed? It is just that it was announced at this time that if any attack happens on KSA or in Pakistan, it's attack on both countries. So it's just a messaging that has to be announced. The there was a verbal or there was some form of fact already existed, or this is just the happening and announcing at the same
Look,
time.
messaging doesn't work unless you are ready to actually execute it. And I think they are ready. I mean, it's not like, they had the working. So, for instance, tomorrow, like if Egypt says, oh, can you do a pact with us? This kind of a pact? It's not possible. If Qatar says it's not possible, with Saudi, it was possible. And the reason is there is a working going on for some time. Like what Pakistan is going to do, like to begin with. If let's say Qatar says that, okay, do you want to do pact with us? How you going to do it? Because Qatar is being already taken care of. There is a CENTCOM headquarter. If Pakistan says, okay, fine, we'll come and deploy something and train you, and then we take care of it, and we'll consider your landmass as our own landmass. And if you're going to be attacked, we're going to actually fight for you. Then you have like another force sitting there who has the headquarter there. So if Pakistan says, "Oh, you remove the CENTCOM from there first, and then we'll come in," would the Qatar do it? They can't. I mean, simply. So similar thing goes with the Egyptians, for instance. If Pakistan says, "Okay, fine, we're going to start working relationship, we're going to actually talk military to military and everything," it's going to take 7 years before they even get to a point where they can actually understand each other, working joint relationship in how to control it. They can do with Turkey though, because they have like a very close working relationship for past 30, 40 years. So both militaries talk to each other. They are very close. People to people contacts are going on. So if Turkey and Pakistan wants to do in some sort of collaborative model or sign a similar sort of pact, what Saudi and Pakistan did, they can do it tomorrow. So it's
Mhm.
country to country basis. It's not easy to actually just go and do it with anyone.
Okay, so based on this conversation, then what to take out of this pact? Like, Pakistan is providing the cover, being the tough guy, after winning, of course, the winning the war with India, the level of confidence is very high. So, given this scenario, is there any definition or is there a clear answer to the question what Pakistan is getting in return?
Um, I think quickly, just Harjeet. I don't think so that you has anything to do with the Sindoor. In fact, it if it had, then it wouldn't have been successful. The operation wouldn't have been successful. So I don't think it was the case, but we can shed more light on it later on. As for your question regarding the the Indian connection, increasing trade with China, and we'll go into the next phase, and maybe the when we are discussing the rest of it, we'll discuss it. Now, as far as implications in terms of the actual pact, Pakistan is going to, rather than like people are talking about, like in terms of the money they're going to get, and our loan is your loan, and your thing is our thing, is fine. You can talk all joke about it, but what it did was all of a sudden Pakistan has come again on the international scene after that Sindoor thing. Pakistan was on the international scene. Everybody was talking about it, like, oh wow, Pakistan has actually taken down the planes, this and that. So after that, it died down in the news. Now all of a sudden, again in the news, that what is happening here? Oh, Saudi Arabia, with the 1.5 trillion dollar economy, with the biggest oil producer, with this, that, whatever, who has got such a big hegemon, is gone under Pakistan's nuclear umbrella. This is like by itself is such a gain for Pakistan to appear as a force for the world, in the world, that country like Saudi Arabia could trust Pakistan as compared to the US in this kind of like delicate situation. So I think for Pakistan to gain from it is this soft understanding and soft landing in terms of the actual where it has promoted its level is much bigger gain than any other financial or any other gain.
Okay, so I will just stop you from at this point and ask you a very particular pertinent question that this pact directly or indirectly defies the US hegemony we have been talking about. And of course, US would not have wanted Pakistan to extend this umbrella to KSA, which is deeply under US influence. They have a close relationship with each other. And of course, US on the side of Israel does not want to discourage Israel or make it look like that Israel has now much bigger enemy in the region than just the KSA. Has Pakistan provoked, the current establishment in Pakistan has provoked the U.S. Kind of agony, or U.S. There would be retaliation against this announcement, where Pakistan is extending this umbrella without, of course, asking US for the permission, or having their any say, asking Trump administration that it should do or what it shouldn't do. So the question is it going to affect Pakistan US relationship in any way? Or maybe, just to pinpoint it, would it affect the blessings that Trump extended to General Asim Munir? Would it, or could it change that blessing in close relationship, friendly gesture that Trump has expressed last time when Munir was there? Could this change the dynamics in Pakistan, and maybe topple this power and the dynamic in Pakistan, where that, of course, apparently it is challenging the US?
Look, it connects with this question earlier on Harjeet actually asked, and I didn't take care of it. So, what will be the US approach towards India, given India increasing trade with the China? And America cannot actually afford it right now. So, where they have pushed India, and now they have pushed Afghanistan. You know what? And they have already bombarded Iran. You know what other countries are we talking about in the region? I mean, Trump was banking on Pakistan, that you are the good guy, come here, puppy, my here, I love you, this, that, whatever, I'm not going to give you tariff, I'm not going to give you hard time. Oh, there's a fourth biggest oil reserves in Pakistan, and we're going to produce, and we're going to pump out all these oil and or minerals, $6 trillion contract, and this and that. It's up to America now, and Pakistan realizes it very well, that who else is there? No, give me one country which could have like some sizable or influence. You got rid of like the whole Middle East situation. You messed it up by bombing Qatar. You have bombed Iran left, right, and center, and said we had nothing to do with it. But obviously, Iran, I mean, being taken care of. Afghanistan, you really made them upset. Like Mullah Khund, I mean, as long as he's there, he's not going to let you in unless you want to go in and then have similar sort of scenario which was there like for 20 years. You want to put
Yes,
boots
but
on the
my
ground?
question, I think my question is different. My question is,
No, I got your question.
yeah,
This is the
how
answer.
no, this is not the answer. The reason
Okay.
is that I'm asking a very pertinent question, and the question is how it affects the relationship between General Asim Munir and Trump administration after the announcement of this pact. Should we expect that there would be a division of this close friendship that was being portrayed to the world, where General Asim Munir visited, I think, two or three times,
I
Washington.
got.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If in it only happens, for instance, the Pakistani general or field marshal, when would he be in trouble? That's what you're. He would be
Yeah.
only in trouble when America wants to put him in trouble. Okay,
So
Imran Khan is in trouble. Oh, hold on a sec. Musharraf is in trouble when America wants him out of the office and empowers Kiani to actually go ahead and then have this Mukla movement. Imran Khan is going to be in trouble when America wants him out, right? So Asim Munir is going to be in trouble when America wants him out. The point
this is
is,
my question.
does America want him out? And that's the question everybody
That's
should
the
ask.
question I'm asking. That's the question I'm asking because of this pact. This announcement of this pact. My
Okay,
question is,
now let me tell you. Okay, because of this pact, because you are connecting it now.
yeah,
If America replaces him with any other thing, especially with the modus operandi, usually is in Pakistan's case, it takes about 2 years, maximum 3 years, to bring in the replacement. So, for instance, like November is coming up, somehow America plays a role through Nawaz Sharif and say, you are sitting in London, don't give him extension, nod towards Shahbaz Sharif, then is he just going to sit there and say, okay, fine, whatever you want to do, you want to bring in the new army chief and whatnot? Is it going to happen? Then you start to see the wrangling. But one thing is for sure, this pact between Saudi and Pakistan is not going to get affected. Doesn't matter who is in the power now. Actually, Saudis made sure, and there is a talk of the town is that there were some certain people actually kind of like got the confirmation. So from the Saudi side, got the confirmation from Imran Khan also that are you okay? That's why he came out, and this whole long tweet came out the next day and say, I'm in favor of this pact and we're going to live by it. Because Saudis were thinking that. I mean, obviously they knew that if there's going to be up and down in Pakistani side, what's going to be the situation? Are they going to live up to this? Am I only dealing with Asim Munir, or are we dealing with the state of Pakistan? So they had this point. I don't think the pact is going to be affected, even the another leadership comes in Pakistan.
Okay, so that's and I think that makes sense to an extent. Like if the pact is not going to be effective, but it any change or any kind of this divergence between the friendship or closeness of General Assamani to Washington D.C. could implicate or could cause many other pacts or maybe some other pacts which are in the pipeline to not to happen, right? Because if US is not giving the blessing to these pacts, then of course it can affect where this kind of change could cause not many pacts happening like this, because it directly defines in defiance of US control and US desires in the region. Now let's move to the next topic in the agenda today is the Budgram base.
Before we move to the point, let me take care of this last question from Ajit.
Continuously asking us the question. Thank you, Ajit.
Just a quick one. I don't think this theory that somehow Pakistan can be distanced from China. America has done that many times, or tried its best to do it, but now is so much integrated, their systems, their working relationship and everything. Like you cannot separate Pakistan from Saudi. Doesn't matter what you do. Similar sort of situation, you cannot separate China from China. The only way it can be separated is if they fight among each other. And Chinese are really upset on certain things with Pakistan, but that hasn't distanced them. Even those things haven't been able to actually put a strong wedge between themselves. So Chinese realize that the Pakistanis on some levels are incompetent and they are not good with consistently following a path, but still they are good. So it's not going to be possible for America to actually get a distance. Pakistan is the one who has actually facilitated the door opening for America to China at the Kissinger stuff. So Kissinger actually flew in a PIA plane to China. So that wasn't the case.
Okay, so moving back to the Budgram base, why it is suddenly so important for the US, and we have seen this, like, what should I say, for lack of better word, a slap on Trump's face. Like it's very unusual. Trump is not used to this thing. Trump thought that anything can be bought, anything can be dealt with, but talk about Taliban, talk about Afghanistan doesn't apply. The general rules of the art of the deal don't apply here. So, do you think there would be any change, anything that can change Afghan's mind to give this base to US?
I
The
don't
way it
think
is asked.
anything can change. No way.
I think it's the world's largest base, by the way. Yeah.
There is no way. Nothing. I mean, no way they can actually hand it over. And let me give you some perspective to it. I'm building this case like on this scenario that, um, you know, um, Saudi Pakistan pact is the initiator of Trump all of a sudden talking about it. Okay, this is
Mhm.
not just came from nowhere. It has to make sense why all of a sudden Trump is mentioning about the background. Why? So I think what would be better for me is to kind of like just go through it. Do you want me to read what I wrote?
Absolutely. Let's go there. Let's.
So yeah, so basically, this would help you understand like what I mean. So Trump suddenly brought a Bagram airfield in Afghanistan out of nowhere. And the question that immediately came to mind was simple: why? Why Afghanistan? Why now? What is the point of suddenly mentioning Bagram of all the places? At first glance, it looked like one of the Trump's random throwaway lines in kind of remark he uses to grab attention and dominate the news cycle. But when you place it alongside the backdrop of recent events, it stops looking random. It begins to feel deliberate. Start with geography. Bagram lies just north of Kabul, around 200 kilometers from Pakistan border. It is not just the relic of American longest war, it is an airfield with a location that still carries strategic weight. And when you line that up with what is happening in the border region, the timing begins to look intentional. When was the last time Pakistan was in the center of international headlines? Just last week. Islamabad signed a new defense treaty with the Saudi Arabia, and this was not the usual agreement. According to the leaks, it included all military capabilities. This is diplomatic code for nuclear, by the way. This is where the pieces starts to fit. After Israel's strike on Qatar, the Saudis wanted an insurance policy. If Israel ever crossed the line into using nuclear weapons in the Middle East, they wanted to know they had a backup. Pakistan could provide it. The logic is simple. Tel Aviv might survive conventional wars, but it could not survive a nuclear exchange. Even the possibility of that kind of retaliation faces Israel to think twice before pushing the button. And so, how do the Americans respond? Almost instantly, we hear Trump bringing up Bagram. Why? Because it is one of the few locations from which the United States could realistically monitor or even attempt to intercept any Pakistani missile headed westwards. Trump tried to cover this with a strange comment about Bagram being an hour away from where China makes nuclear weapons. That explanation made little sense. The real concern here is not China, it is Pakistan. If the interpretation holds, then the implications are serious. It would mean Washington is gaming out a scenario in which Israel might actually use nuclear weapons and Pakistan might retaliate. Just think about that. It is not only the reflection of reckless thinking in Tel Aviv, it is the United States quietly preparing for the possibility of nuclear exchange involving Israel and Pakistan. Will the United States actually get access to Bagram again? That is highly doubtful. The Taliban are not about to invite American forces back in and let them reclaim the base that symbolized 2 decades of occupation. China also has a growing influence in Afghanistan and would not sit quietly if the United States tried to return. But even if the prospects is unrealistic, the fact that Bagram is being mentioned again right now tells us something important. It tells us that something larger in the motion across the Middle East. The region feels like a dry tinder. All it needs is a spark. That spark could easily come from Israel in the coming days, especially as the momentum builds around the recognition of Palestine by more countries. For years, Israeli strategy, and by the way, that's happening tomorrow. So, for years, Israel strategy has depended on Palestinians being isolated and Israel enjoying unquestioned cover from the United States. That foundation is beginning to crack, and then Israel may respond to that loss with anger and escalation. There are a couple of more paragraphs, but I think you get the point that this is what the real scenario
Wonderful.
is.
Amazing. Amazing. I think I totally agree with that inference, I think, which you have brought up is very comprehensive. The only thing which now puts this whole scenario, if we believe in this, this theory which you just mentioned, then that has a very serious consequences. It means that there is an intention of the expansion of the war in the Middle East, and that's why this Donald Trump has come to this thing, and people were laughing about it, that how obvious it was that it is. He stated that and you would not expect from Donald Trump, given his personality, that he'll speak the truth and be labeled as very naive, that we want to monitor what China is doing there. And given that it is in very serious negotiation with China, given that it has the meeting planned out, that Trump would say such a thing. So I think it was totally a divergence. from main topic where it wants to intercept. Now, this brings to me this last question for the today, which we want to discuss. Now, given this scenario where US is so proactive that a pact happens, and right after 3 days of the pact, they calculate the whole scenario, they do the war gaming, and they see the missile coming over the, going through
Look,
Vietnam.
let me clarify one thing. This my whole piece is about my own calculation. I don't have any inside information from Pentagon, but this is 2 plus 2, and I hope it makes sense, and I hope it makes sense to you that this is what it is. That's where the Bagram fits in.
It totally makes sense to me on the face of it. I mean, the way you have just described here. Now, this is bringing me actually giving me more worries as a citizen of the world that the things are going south here. We need to, when we are adding things up, and of course, we are here for the audience and we are trying to connect the dots as we have this motto of our podcast, that we are here to connect the dots. And that is exactly what we are trying to do. Given this scenario, look at the changes which are happening. We're talking about the world, but if you just look into the US has just recently, the Trump administration changed the name of the Defense Department into a War Department. And if you look at that now I think Hexes is secretary of, like, the minister for war, right? Not like a defense minister or defense secretary. So this is very interesting. If you put these pieces together, is this that the US is going on this expansion with Israel and is gonna, definitely it means that this pact has triggered this Badgam base, according to your analysis, then adding 2 plus 2, or like adding two, like 3 plus 2, would be that this war, I think the invasion to, KSA invasion, or maybe other Middle Eastern countries, is possible, is on the horizon, and US is taking over this. This would essentially set the stage for the World War III, because we have now alliances very well defined, US and Israel on one side, and of course we can expect that UK and some other, Germany or maybe other countries, may join this alliance, or maybe already joined this alliance internally. They don't need to announce that. But on the other side, we see China, Russia, Middle East, Pakistan, Turkey, Iran forming another kind of alliance, loose alliance. So this totally sets the stage. You're mute.
Again, this notion, we jump the gun sometime, and why we do that. We have certain aspirations, we have certain inclination, and all that. I think, like, when you are looking at the geopolitics, you have to look at the ground realities and then move on. It's not as simple for countries. I have already given you the explanation. It's not simple for countries to come together and start working on the military front and economic front. I mean, these ties gets built up over years, and then you actually become powerful in a sense to exercise it jointly. um, Before we actually go on to the scenario where this kind of like World War III kind of scenario happens, I don't think is you know would kind of evolve into that kind of a scenario. There's going to be some side rails. There are enough powers in the world, in the background, in the shadows, to actually prevent that. I mean, if it had to happen, Cuban Missile Crisis was the best scenario where it would have happened. I mean, there are like many other scenarios in the past 50 years that where it could have started at any point in time, given time, and it's not in anybody's favor, and they realize that. But let me take quickly what Anwar Bhai was saying. The new cover is symbolic. I feel the air cover will be more important, and for the Chinese integration will happen. Do you agree? So I let me bring in one point. Now, when I was saying that, working with Saudi, Pakistan has been working with Saudi for 50, whatever, 60 years, in many sense, not on the military sense, but they had to kind of shift. Remember, like I was giving you in a scenario that tomorrow, if Qatar says, okay, we want to actually have a pact with you, they can't, because they have the CENTCOM there. On the other hand, the very first signal Saudi actually gave to Americans was not just now. That was back in 2018 when the US was really kind of like coming, and that Trump was in power, by the way. At that time, Saudi said, no, we're going with Huawei. They didn't ban Siemens and Nokia, but they did half and half. So right now, if you go in Saudi, the actual backbone is Huawei. Yes, the towers are the Nokia and Ericsson, but America was really upset on this. They said, how could you do that? So Saudi was actually giving subtle messages in terms of like, okay, we have to have a balance. And they were kind of slowly shifting from it. Then they gave cold shoulder to Biden when he came into the power. And then they signed, I don't know, whether 24 or 32 MOUs with President Xi. When President Xi actually landed, they gave him the similar sort of purple carpet, reception with planes like Shabazz, like similar sort of scenes what you saw with Shabazz Sharif, 21 gun salute and all those kind of things. So the Saudis were giving these kind of signals beforehand. So now when when Anwar Bhai says that okay, this is about the Chinese air cover, yes, but at the same time, is going to slowly take time for Pakistan to come with the J-10s and J-35s. I mean, J-35 Pakistan doesn't have at this point in time, but soon they're probably going to have, because they increased. And the second comment was from Anwar Bhai also, that J-35 they initially ordered for about like 40, but now in like I think 2 months ago they increased the number to 80. Zardari was there. With Zardari, they actually confirmed that okay, fine, they're going to be actually increasing the number between 80 and 100. So if Pakistan has the 5th generation plane in next couple of years, in that number between 80 to 100, this is going to become a real force to be reckoned with, real military force to be reckoned with. You know what? 5th generation airplanes can do what your missile systems cannot do. I mean, again, you have to understand how close the working relationship is going to be. Like if it is going to be as close that Pakistan is going to be deploying its equipment by nearby Tabuk, then it's an entirely different scenario. And, America is going to be looking at that very closely, that Pakistan has their equipment, their squadrons actually placed by Tabuk, which is like literally about like maybe 10 minutes flight. I would have to actually check what the crow flight time is from Tabuk to actually Tel Aviv. That's about like, 15, 20 minutes. And at that, they don't even have to go anywhere. Like, as you probably would have noticed, Pakistani planes, J-10Cs were actually hovering around in a hovering pattern in the middle of Pakistan. They were not close to the border of India. They were literally beyond Indus River towards the west. And from there, they actually fired the missiles and they hit deep down in India and taken out those 6 Rafales. So the point is, imagine if there's going to be hovering pattern, Pakistanis are going to be, right there, and they don't have to actually fire a missile. According to my theory, in terms of the actual Bagram base, that the missile, the Shaheen 3, which has about 4,800 kilometers range, which fires as far as beyond Egypt, then they don't have to fire from here. They can just literally, I mean, J-35 has got the capability to carry the nuclear arm also. And they're soon going to be getting a couple of them anyway.
So let me ask you this question right here. So now we are going into this path where we are saying that KSA having this pact with Pakistan is actually indirectly having a pact with China. And now this begs the question that why not KSA would do this pact directly with China, and why Pakistan is involved?
Because China is the biggest enemy is going to be for the America, and that's how it's going to be seen as that instantly overnight. Saudi would come out of the American camp and then move into the Chinese camp with the 80% of the Chinese equipment under their belt. 80% of the American equipment under their belt. Now, what effectively it means? Now, China would have F-35s designs and all those kind of whatever the toys Saudis have. They would have some sort of designs, but not to an extent they even get hold of some of them and then start working on this. So, I mean, it's not that simple for countries to come out. I told you there's a trajectory for it. There's like 7, 8, 10 years of trajectory before you can start moving. That's why America is so upset that we have invested so much into you, India. We allowed so many of you to actually come here and then become the CEOs of our companies, of all the Fortune 500 companies. And then you are repatriating all these dollars to your country, building all this up. We are building data centers and we are telling TSMC to actually invest $1 billion and build the chip making factory over there. And then you come to us and you are buying oil from Russia and you are doing so much trade with China. You have to listen to us.
Yeah,
So
that's very
that's why you cannot do that.
okay. Now coming back to this, the World War Three stage. Like, is this initiation? Is this the path that would lead to this World War Three? So, I mean, when we say World War Three, it doesn't have to be like the World War Two, like like World War Two. It could mean that it could be an economic war. It could be a war which is based fought strategically between these countries. It could be potentially many other. It could manifest in many different ways. We are seeing that one force, at least, which is Israel, is doing it physically, the traditional way, attacking, killing, murdering people openly, like you do in the war. Other than that, rest of the strategy we can discuss maybe in a separate podcast. Maybe next time we can talk about if there's such a thing happens, what would be the implication to the global economy, to the other countries, to the world. Um, the stage is being set to some kind of change in dynamics. Something is going to change geographically, geopolitically, or some other shape and form which is yet to be determined. But the stage is being set, for lack of better word, we're calling it World War Three. It could be anything that is gonna create the division between the countries, create the division between the economies, and the way the business is being conducted at this very moment. So maybe we can discuss this deeply into a separate conversation. But in your view, what is your thought, concluding thought, and then we can wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, I think like we have gone in for too long. I wasn't planning to. I think like 45 minutes would have been good, but these sessions go on and one thing
Yeah,
after another. But
yeah,
I think finally I would just say that Charlie Kirk happened like just day before 9/11. And I think there were like a lot of people who were lined up to actually dissect the 9/11, including Tucker Carlson. Many of those guys, and something was supposed to be discussed with the proofs that that was an inside job, and they were behind it. And I think that was kind of like something needed to happen. That's another theory, by the way. So there are like many theories, but that needed to be into consideration. So 9/11 kind of a job is not going to work now. You have to really. So Charlie Kirk's like people are raising questions. I mean, these are genuine questions. If the FBI is actually releasing some video footage which shows that there's a gun and gives this scenario that he was carrying a gun inside, and every hunter knows that. I mean, you know that, I know that, 30 not six bullet can only be fired by minimum of, or even if you have a short barrel, it has to be 22 inches. I mean, there is a physics behind the whole thing. I mean, we have to discuss this whole scenario maybe in a separate session. But the point is that for them is to do so much to hide this behind this one killing that the physics doesn't work. Imagine if they try to do, and actually I was discussing internally that, I mean, for them, the another World War III kind of a scenario is that, do Black Swan. And if they try to actually orchestrate a Black Swan and then people are able to, or countries are able to instantly decode it and then fire back, then what's going to be? And I can openly discuss that. Like, for instance, 9/11, if on the 12th of September or 13th of September, the real truth would have come out and said, oh, that was an inside job. Why Building 7 went down without any plane hitting it, and the people who were celebrating it, the videos footage, and they were actually captured, they were arrested and then released without charge. Who were those people? So similar sort of things, it starts to actually come out in this kind of a scenario, then obviously it's not easy to conduct some kind of black swan event. And but in result of that, what's going to happen? It's going to happen like missiles are going to fire on both locations, because you probably going to act creating this false phenomena which didn't happen, which you created it yourself, and then ultimately other party responded. Now, same thing happened with the Pakistan India thing. So India created this false flag. Pakistan kind of responded. That could very well, I mean, turn into World War III. I mean, if you look at it, scenario, because Pakistan actually said, give us the proof, give us the proof. They were not able to actually give the proof. And then they taken down their planes. And if the Trump wouldn't have actually intervened if India was winning, because they would have kept on going and taken over Pakistan, and that was the original plan, but it just fired back. So this kind of thought process I'm talking about, that any of those actions, which I very well I'm taking into account that it could happen in next month or two, maybe in a week, because what unprecedented thing is happening is tomorrow. The whole world is accepting as Palestine, and in the heart of US, New York. I mean, it's very unprecedented. So we are living in interesting times, and
Yes,
that's how the World War III could could.
absolutely.
I hope so.
Thank
Say
you so
so.
much, KZ. And again, thank you for the audience who have been with us along the whole session. We really appreciate your contribution. We had some very good question being asked in the podcast. So we encourage asking the questions, and we will definitely get to those questions and try to include your opinion. Again, this podcast is being streamed on YouTube as well. So you can go to Geotechopolitics on YouTube and maybe subscribe or like our channel there, so that you could maybe share it with other people, and maybe you could see it again. So with that thought, thank you, Khurram. Casey was not feeling well today, but we really wanted to come back and start the sessions again. Hopefully, we'll soon have the second one from in this series, and we'll continue to try to connect the dots for everybody. Watching this show. So again, thank you, KZ, and have a good rest of the evening and late night, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Take care. Bye.